that's what I have to say, and I would be happy to entertain a question or two if anyone had one. Otherwise, yes, ma'am.
So when these horses come to you and they're in dire pain and they've been used with horrible fitting saddles, louder, please. When they come to him,
repeat the question.
With horrible fitting saddles and very sore backs, do you ever have them chiropractor?
No.
Will you repeat the question?
Relieve any of the pain and the pressure
Right.
before you start working with your saddle?
Right. So the question is, when horses come to us with a very sore back, do we chiropractor them or give them any kind of other therapies besides the saddle before we work with them? The answer to that is no. And the reason for that is the saddle is its own therapy. So one of the interesting things that we discovered, and it was quite by accident, is that if you take this technology and you put it on a horse's back that's very sore, and you leave it on for 20, 25 minutes, just the horse standing there with the saddle on the back, the pain goes away. Or 99% of the pain goes away. It's really quite a remarkable thing. You can see this on some of the videos on our website. There is a lot of science behind that, which I won't go into because it's you know, it's quite involved. But the saddle is therapeutic in its own right, which is really quite a remarkable thing. So when you think about, you know, as I said before, is the best thing that we could do for a horse to have it not bother him? I would say now, no. The best thing that we can do is actually have the saddle become therapeutic. And I believe that the action of riding a horse in a saddle that's therapeutic is the best therapy that you can give a horse, more than chiropractic, more than anything else, because as a rider you have a capacity, if you're reasonably educated, to have the horse go through all kinds of gymnastic suppling exercises in motion, which you can't really do if you're just doing chiropractic work. And the additional benefit is you can do that with the horse every day, which is better than having the chiropractor out every day. It's certainly less expensive. Just to finish answering that question, we took the technology in the saddle and shrunk it down. There's a Thera-Tree right behind it, to a device that we call a Thera-Tree, which is essentially the tree of a saddle in a shortened form. It looks like a saddle a monkey would wear in a circus. You can put this on a horse and leave it on him unattended with a girth for hours as a means of therapy. So we do this in addition. And there are also some things that we've learned that go along with this, which are, I would say, the ideas of grounding a horse. I don't know if any of you are familiar with grounding or the concept of earthing, but that's something that we do in addition to this. And we also do some demagnetizing, which helps the whole energy phenomena of a horse become in I would say, a normalized state. So, anyway. Another question? Yes, ma'am.
So, what would you say is the biggest, I'm trying to think the right, maybe misconception people have about saddle technology and the way it fits on the horse? In that, like, even just to the point of, like, I have arguments with people that I respect completely about just where they put the saddle on the horse.
Right.
You know, like, some people want it where I feel like it's like on their shoulder, like it shouldn't be that far forward, and
Right.
that sort of thing. Like, do you feel like that there's a point of education that you feel like within being an educated rider is a missed area?
Yes. very, very much so. So the current saddle narrative is, as you say, a matter of adjusting tree width or panel configuration to fill negative space. The reason I think that that's failed is because of the number of horses that have sore backs. So it's, at this point in time, there are probably more options for tree width and panel configuration than there have been in my lifetime. There are more saddle fitters going around. There are more possibilities of customization, shall we say, than ever before. And yet there are still more sore backs than ever before. So there must be room for another narrative, right? So I believe in a different narrative, and I've come to believe in that for this reason. In the course of the past 30 years, doing all of this saddle investigation, we have made more experiments than have ever been made in saddle history. We've made upwards of 4,500 experiments, which equates to an experiment every other day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 30 years. It has been a maniacal exercise. But I was determined to accomplish this before it was too late. So we have a group of test horses. Anybody's always welcome to come to the shop and see what we do. It's not a secret, it's not a mystery. But we have a group of test horses, and nothing gets done in a saddle unless it passes this group of test horses. They have the gong, and I can be up working up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on an idea, only to put it on a horse at 8 o'clock in the morning and have them within a matter of minutes tell me that it was a bad idea. It's frustrating. There's a lot of up and down. Thankfully, that's leveled out. But here's the most interesting statistic of all. In 4,500 experiments over this group of horses that we have, which is 5 horses, there has never been a divergence in their opinion on an experiment. So again, 4,500 experiments, 5 horses, over 30 years, they have never diverged in their opinion on an experiment. They either all like it or they don't like it, right? Some like it more than others, but it's always the same trend. So what does that tell us about a saddle? What it tells me is that, and this goes back to your question about the narrative, we are designing saddles to fit negative space with a horse that's at a standstill, rather than designing saddles for the posture of ennoblement when they are in motion. And because all horses, when they're going well, look like all horses that are going well, and that's how we know that they're going well, they all must have similar needs, which they do. They all need to come up in their back. They all need to lift through their thoracic sling. They all need to be able to lower their croup. Their needs are more universal than not. So if you, I think, what is that, Field of Dreams? If you build it correctly, they will come to it. And that's what I think we have been on mission to do. Build something that appeals to their intrinsic needs in motion, and if you build it correctly, they will come to it. Here's another way to look at it, just to finish that up. The horses, from an engineering standpoint, the horse is a very complicated engineering system. The rider, similarly, is a very complicated engineering system. We put this thing in between us, this interface, if you will, that's perhaps one of the most rudimentary things you could imagine. And it has continued to be rudimentary. It's just not sophisticated enough to act as a very good interface between these two complicated engineering systems, particularly when they're in dynamic motion. So if you put a rudimentary interface between complicated engineering systems, you are going to degrade the capability on either side. And that's, I think, what the industry has failed to look at. And as riders, we're failing to hold the saddle industry accountable and demanding something better. What they're giving to us as riders is a lot of bling. It's a lot of narrative. It's a lot of fancy stuff with a big price tag that can be customized to your horse in a way that's very inexpensive for them to do it. It doesn't really require much investigation. It doesn't require much in the way of research and development. And so I think as riders, we need to hold the saddle manufacturers more accountable to give us things that are better, as opposed to taking what they give us and then turning around to our veterinarians, chiropractors, acupuncturists, and body workers, and ask them to fix what the saddles have created, right? So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Yay.